Can I shift this over where I can still hit 0 volts? Really fast CPLD. So it's to your benefit when you see this. Because now it does not depend on this signal. This guy's going to latch the data.
Why is it through?
In the case where this was low again, all the time, it's whichever one of these two signals goes false first, latches the data, right? So now this guy is low all the time, so he's not going to latch the data. So here's the signal I got to watch. Now, when this moves over 5, my data is only held for 3 in the worst case. So if it goes over 5, I'm going to latch. There's nothing there. It's gone.
Oh, yeah.
It's only 3 nanoseconds that hold time.
What's the 7?
The 7 is min-max. So it's between 3 and 7 it's held.
It's possible it could be there
Oh,
at
so
7,
the
but
worst
it's only
would be-
guaranteed at 3.
And that's common. When you buy a device, they'll give you a min-max spec. Because, again, you buy 1,000 parts. In those 1,000 parts, some of them will hold for 3 nanoseconds, the microprocessors. Some of them will hold for 7. We got to design for the worst case.
Oh.
Unless you want,
We got designed for the
unless it's an
least-
iPhone.
For the least hold time.
For the iPhone, you don't design for the worst case. You design for the best case and hope that half of them fail within 2 years. I'm serious. I really think that phone is designed, the failure rate is extremely high. I don't know how the Androids are, but iPhones fail all the time. Anybody else besides myself has gone through 1 or 2? How many of you have iPhones first? Okay, so all you guys have iPhones, how many have had a failure in your iPhone? How about Androids? How many of you guys have Androids? How many Androids have failed? The 2 of them failed.
I've been through 5 of the
What are you doing to these things?
Oh, Brian.
You had the early Androids I heard were really bad.
I mean, it's frozen. Yeah, that's right.
I'm not feel better. But they're also half price, right?
It's an unfair
Yeah.
question because there are different brands.
Yeah.
There's Samsung, HTC.
Phone's a freaking phone. Why can't I compare them? Oh, I mean, you mean which brand? in
Manufacturer,
particular?
yeah.
Okay. What's your brand? Yeah,
HTC.
HTC.
Yeah.
HTC is bad. Samsung, I heard, are good.
Taiwanese.
Samsung are good phones. Yes.
So is it will the chip enable always have that delay since it has the logic gate, or will you have it the same?
All right, that's a very good question. Is there ever in real life a possibility that this signal generated here through decode circuitry will be exactly the same as data strobe? No. Why is that? Because there's no CPLD with 0 delay. What's your CPLD? 10. That's a pretty fast one, by the way. 10 nanoseconds. So, this signal should be shifted off of data strobe by 10 nanoseconds. Or in the case you guys didn't use data strobe, what did you use that'll be shifted?
Chip select 0, 1.
Yeah, but chip select 0 was not the gating signal. Chip select 0 did this. What was the signal?
Right enable.
Did you have that one going through?
The right name on the address.
Did you have this one going through your CPLD?
Yeah.
If you did, then the signal that you created should look like this one. And that's the one that will be delayed by 10 nanoseconds. This is your, I think you call it X-Write enable. I don't remember the DSP.
Yeah.
Okay, can we do the read version of this, or do you want to do another one, or
The access
do we
time,
leave this one?
the access time, though, the best case is the shortest time.
Okay. Again, it depends. The best case is the slowest time. You mean the worst? Okay, you're saying the best CPLD?
No, the access time for the SRAM, what's the best case? Is the maximum in.
The best, say it again for me?
For the SRAM, For memory access, what's the best time, the maximum in?
Oh, okay. The best memories have the shortest access time.
Worst
You're asking?
case, time specifications.
Are we gonna do the next part? Can we do the read?
Yeah, let's do the
I
react.
had a question about this timing diagram. For part 3.2, you had us draw the SRAM chip enablers.
Yes.
And there's a portion where you didn't know where the data was because of the way the data strove and the read not write.
Oh, you mean the extra credit?
Yeah.
Where does that come
I
from?
was wondering if you could explain that.
Sure, I can explain very quickly. This signal right here is a function of address and data stroke. What happened to the address was during the data stroke?
It went low during the day.
No, not low.
Went away.
Went away.
When unknown.
Right.
The difference between.
If the address goes unknown, what happens to this signal? If the data stroke is true, it's low. So this guy is low.
Well, when did the chip enable just go, oh, I guess because it's unknown.
The address goes up and down, unknown.
Okay.
That guy's got to follow. So that's that little piece down there.
That makes sense.
That was difficult to catch. So during the entire time the data strobe is low, or the chip enable is low, or whatever is being used to gate this, during that entire time, by God, this address had better be stable. Can you remember, like, when we have those problems where we have address and data are being multiplexed? And that's the whole problem, is the address goes away. It's the same thing as this one.
Okay.
The address must be stable the entire time this signal is true. Good question. All right, we're going to go to the read.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully the read will be a little easier. So on the read, you just have data stroke to worry about. But the important thing is that the data is coming not from the microprocessor. The data is coming from the SRAM. The microprocessor is going to read it right there. That's the only signal on that timing diagram that's going true when the data is coming out. And of course we have address. The address comes out early. It's stable in this case. It's not being multiplexed. So, okay. So now we draw the chip enable for these. The CE, the minus CE, that's going to the SRAM. We say the CPLD is perfect. The Einsteinian case is running faster than the speed of light. Zero nanoseconds. So we see how long will the DSP hold its data? I'm sorry, how long will the SRAM hold its data? And how long does it take for the data to come out? So on a read cycle, let's take a look at just the hold time. Just say read write, address true. So again, we're going to just tie read. We use read write like we have it there, which should be fine, 20 nanoseconds, whatever. It says whichever goes false. Notice read write is high the entire time, so it's going to be this signal. When this signal goes false, the hold time is what? 3 and 7. And the access time is 9 and 17. Okay, so let's start talking about worst case scenario. Is it better to hold it longer or shorter?
Is that the access time or the setup time?
It's the access time, thanks. Setup time will be the difference between the two, right? So, okay, what was the width of this pulse?
44 to 48.
All right, which one's worst case? Then 44, that narrower is faster. It's going to give us less time before we got to read. It'll be less time for us to, before all of a sudden we're going to read and latch our data in the microprocessor. If we look over here on this hold time, the SRAM, well, let's just save this one for 3 and 7. Over here, this access time, which is the worst case?
17.
The longer it takes, the worse it is. So, if it takes 17 nanoseconds for our data to finally come out, how much setup time do we have? Let's just take a look at that 44 minus 17, what is that? 34 minus 7, what, 27? What's that? Okay, so presently there's 27 nanoseconds of setup time. And there's at least 3 nanoseconds of hold time. Now, you gotta look and see, well, what does the DSP require? The DSP is the guy who's latching the data, so what does it require? For the microprocessor in this case. It says that it requires what?
7?
7 for a setup and 0 for a hold. I'm gonna write that down. Microprocessor, T setup, T7, hold, 0. Okay, so now, first of all, that's good. If this thing had a hold of 4, we would be in trouble. We'd only have 3. Now what happens when we start delaying this signal? That CPLD has, let's say again, 1 nanosecond delay. It moves over this way. What does the data do? Does the data stay exactly in the same position? No, the data also moves over. Why? Because we're enabling the SRAM longer. And again, you got to remember who's putting the data on the bus. The SRAM puts the data on the bus. When we start to shift this over in time, all the data starts to shift over. Now, when the data starts to shift over, what happens to the hold time?
It's bigger.
Gets longer. Okay? So here the hold time was 0, but if the hold time was like 4, practice, the hold time was 4, would this work?
No.
No, you know that because I just changed it. So when I have a CPLD of 0, my worst case, what's my hold time?
3.
3. So I need at least 4. So what would I have to do?
1.